So we're in the middle of learning the Maimer Kein Karu, Tafshin Yud Gimmel. We started it before Purim. Unfortunately, we didn't finish it before Purim, but like the Rebbe is going to say himself at the end of this Maimer, every Yom Tiv, something is Nimshach that continues for the entire coming year. So we'll finish the Inyan and we're going to understand what Purim Hatuketan and with what power we're going now. So we're holding Eis Hey, and until now, they have explained that the Indian of Purim is the Indian of Geirel. That's why Kein Karu Purim Al Shem Hapur, that the Indian of Purim, the whole nets of Purim came from the idea of Geirel. The Rebbe explains that the idea of Geirel is something that comes from higher than Seichel, and it's something that comes even from higher than Ratzin. It touches on the Baal HaRatzin. And what happens when you reach the Baal HaRatzin? So then you could get a kapara for all of the Avedas that the person was over on. That's what we finished learning before Purim, that Purim brings a kapara even for things that Yom Kippur doesn't bring. And that's why Yom Kippur is called Yom Kippurim, because it's Kippurim, it's like Purim, but it's not quite as high as Purim. But because on Purim, there's the Iker Inyan of Geirel, there's the Iker Inyan, the whole day is called Purim Al Shem HaGeirel. There's the Iker Inyan of Kapara, and therefore Purim was even able to be mechaper on the Avera of Chilul Hashem, which the Yidden did then by participating in Achashverosh's feast. There's an obvious question. If the idea of Purim is... Hang on 1 second. We're going to be finished probably like 8:45. I want to come back 8:45. You want to join the share? It's my man.
I'll come back at 8:45.
Come back 8:50. Okay. So, Shmuel, you're looking for him.
Oh, he wants me to do it? So I can do it when we hear
Okay,
come.
Okay. So, reflects of the Shaila, if the Indian of Geirel reaches such a high place that brings a person kapara for all of his Averis, what was Haman HaRasha's thought? Why, by going to the place of Geirel, did he think that he could cause the Yiddish nation to be destroyed? It's the opposite of the idea that when you go to the place of Geirel, there's kapara for all of the Averis. So what was Haman HaRasha's thought? Okay, so let's see.
His Geirel was not astrology.
No,
It wasn't mitzad because
it was beferish mitzad what he believed to be going on in El Mitzvah. We'll see in a moment.
his whole evaluation of the month of Adar was that Moshe Rabbeinu died, so therefore it's bad mazel for the Yid. His whole thing was mazoilus.
So Weissach is that the Rebbe takes on with the pshutis, that Haman HaRasha, whether he was consciously aware or it was coming from his subconscious or from his mazel, was doing the idea of Geirel, not mitzad astrology or from chachmas that he knew from whatever nation he was from Amalek, but it was mitzad the inyan of Geirel, Lamaila, and the Il Mitzvah, how things work by the Eibishter. That's why he was doing that.
When is it coming to such a hassle?
And about Hamishim,
We're going to get to at the end of the Maimer also. How did he get to it? I don't know.
It's not that he didn't figure it out. I mean, this is not.
You'll soon see he figured it out very well.
Not figured out now. Which this is very,
He figured it out perfectly. He read the manual. He knew exactly what he was doing. Let's see in the Maimer. I can't tell you where he gained the knowledge from, but he gained the knowledge. Tzarech Lavin asks the Rebbe, Delafia now, Shaladei Hapudu HaGeirel HaMshach and Sof Baal HaRatzin, through the Geirel we reach the place of Baal HaRatzin. Shaladei and Iskapta Kol Ha'inyanim HaBilti Ritzuim, which by reaching to the place of Baal HaRatzin, you have a forgiveness for all of the Averis. What was the thought of Haman HaRasha, whose whole idea over here was that to be mekatik on the Yidden, to bring about something negative about the Yidden, to make a Geirel, to cast lots. L'chure, in the place of Baal HaRatzin, there's no such thing of being mekatik on the Yidden. And the second thing we have to understand, the Yom Tov of Purim is not is not named after the idea of Geidel, which is the idea of Ein Sof, which is higher than Hishtalshelus in the place of Balaratzim, but rather Hapur is talking about Haman Rosh's Lats. Hapur be'edei kol person am liften sein Hapur sheipul Haman, but Hapur sheipul Haman ayin bilti ratzi. That was something not good. V'laman nikraim yamim eila Purim al shem Purim. And why are these days called Purim? Named after Pur Zeh, named after this Pur that Haman Rasha cast. What was Haman Rasha's thought? When it comes to the Medegas of Ishtalshlus, since when it comes to the Eir that shines in Ishtalshlus, the actions, the activities of the Tachtenim who came from this Eir it counts. It's aware, it senses it. The Eir, how do you say it? It's Teifus Makim. There's some erech, there's some relation between the Eir and the Tachtenim to whom the Eir comes to. And therefore, whatever the Tachtenim do is negeya to the Eir. So when it comes to a system of Seder Shalshlus, Iker Hashpa Hili Yisrael, the primary Hashpa that comes Milamayla goes to the Yidden. Because the Yidden are fulfill Torah mitzvahs. Even those that Haman Rosh try to be mekatig on that they're not behaving like tzaddikim, still em le mitzvahs kirimin. Like it says, we ask the Eibishter to look upon us from the heavens and to give a bracha to the Yidden, and uses the word Shamayim, when you're talking about the level of Shamayim, which this is already the beginning of Ishtalshlus, the brachas come down to the Yidden. Why? Because Lagabi, the Erev Ishtalshlus, you take a Yid who's Mekayim Torah Mitzvahs and you take a guy and put them next to each other. The Eir decides that the one who's appropriate, that the light should come to him, that the Hashpah should come to him, is the Yid and not the good. And Haman Rosh knew that he had that problem. The Kivan Shagam Haman Rosh Yada Shalachri Kol HaKitrugim Shekiteg Al Yisrael Ein Shum Dimyon B'nei Ben Yisrael. Since Haman Rosh knew that even after all of the Kitrugim that he brought upon the Yidden to bring out that they're not behaving appropriately, there's still no similarity, no comparison between him and the Yidden. Which therefore mitzad the Madega of Ishtalshelus, Haman, who's a Rasha, Chas v'sholom cannot. He had no chance to overcome the Yidden who are full of mitzvahs kirimin. That was his thought of casting lots. The Since in the Mandega L'mayla Mishtalshlus, what the Tachtenim do is not Tefes Makim, it doesn't affect it, and everything is equal over there. Dark and light are the same. Therefore he thought Therefore he thought that the Mitzad, the Madrega that's higher than Ishtalshelus, there's a possibility that he'll succeed and he will be victorious over the Yidden. Okay?
That's why all the countries that threw the Yidden out, within
a short period, they lost their power.
Basically, they lost everything.
And the opposite is the same also. Wherever the Yidden came, they became the world power. Yeah. Okay, so what do we have over here? This whole matter goes around this idea that you have three madrigas. We're going to start with the first one, which is Ishtalshelus, which we just finished discussing. Okay, in the world of Ishtalshelus, just trying to think a good way to bring it out. I'll bring a muscle from Achashverosh. I didn't fully work it through, but I'll bring a muscle from Achashverosh. In the Madrega of Ishtalshelus, you have a connection to the thing that you're dealing with. Okay, the Eir is not so much higher, is not so much detached from the place that the Eir is coming to, that it's not aware and it doesn't care what the Tachtenim are doing. When we get Achashverosh, we're going to see soon in the Maimer. It's not the best muscle. Over Al Kolponim. If a person wants to have a friend, Nah, it's not going to work. What are we going to do with the muscle? What are we going to do with the muscle for a system of Ishtalshlus? Woman sagt that the Tachten is Tefes Mokim. And since the Tachten is Tefes Mokim, so therefore what the Tachten does and what type of thing the Tachten is important. And it determines what the Eir is going to do.
It's Tefes Mokum, it's the union of Keli.
It is the union of Keli.
So if it's the union of Keli, it determines what type of light shines into. I mean, it determines the amount or the quality of light that goes into it.
Yeah, but I can't tie it into here. What you're saying is correct, but I can't tie it into here. We're going to have to leave it at that. Hopefully we'll be able to come back to it. Hopefully we'll be able to work something out. But the point is that there's a system of Ishtalshlus. The system of Ishtalshlus can best be understood al derech of Seichel. It's a Eir Pnimi. In Seichel you have an Eir Pnimi. And an Eir Pnimi, the says in the Madega of the Nefesh, where you're talking about an Eir Pnimi,
Everything has to go.
everything has to go in the place where it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. For example, if somebody wants to award somebody something, so he makes the teacher, for example, makes an evaluation, who behaved the best in class, and he decides to whom the award should go to. So over here, even though the teacher stands much, much higher than the student, but still the students are lefi erech the teacher. Certainly when he comes to the classroom, and over here the teacher doesn't come the way he is an adult. A teacher who's worth his salt knows how to lower himself during the hours of the class to the level of the students so that he can work with the students and actually teach them something instead of just sitting at the table and giving drashas and drinking his cup of coffee. Yeah. So he lowers himself to the level of the students. And since he's lowering himself to the level of the students, so he makes a cheshbon. Which students behaved appropriately and which students didn't behave appropriately. And over here, he cares. And if there's a student who's not behaving appropriately, Kivyachal gets upset. Again, if he's a very, very good teacher, he doesn't truly get upset. We're not, these things could sometimes be beyond human capacity. But let's say the ideal teacher, right? No matter what the student does, he doesn't get upset. He acts like he's upset, like we just had in Rambam. He acts like he cares, because right now in the classroom, he lowered himself to the level of the students. But when he leaves, if he truly didn't care, then to him, the student who behaved the best and the student who behaved the worst, he cares about them equally. Again, if he's a good teacher, he cares about them both. And if he's not a good teacher, he doesn't care about either of them. But whatever the case is, this is more like a system of seichel, a system of ishtalshlus, where the mashpia and the mekabel are be'erech one to each other. And therefore, what the mekabel does is negeya to the mashpia, and therefore the mashpia will decide based on what the mekabel does. It's like a mashal of the idea of ishtalshlus, of the way it works in ishtalshlus. But then we said, you have when the teacher leaves the classroom. Over here, the teacher left the classroom. Now he's no longer at the level of the students. He's back to his highest level, to his own level, which is be'ein areich, to a group of 7 or 8 year olds. And now over here, going to get to himself, you already start having a maisa of shneim shavim. Okay? So trying to use that as a mashal, al derech zeh, you have what's in Hishtalshlus, and that's what he said before is the Hanhaga of Seichel we had earlier in the Maimer. And then you have the Seder that's L'mayla Hishtalshlus, and we started with Ratzin. In the place of Ratzin, the Tachten is not Negeya. And certainly in the place of the Baal HaRatzin, the Tachten is not Negeya. What does the Baal HaRatzin mean? The Baal HaRatzin is the one who decides, should I have a Ratzin for this or should I have a Ratzin for the other thing? If he's deciding, should I have a ratzin for this thing or should I have a ratzin for the other thing, it means that both of those things are shavim legabe. We're going to get to the big problem when they're shavim legabe. But from the place of the Baal HaRatzin, they're shavim legabe. And Haman HaRash's cheshbon was that in a place of ishtalshlus, no matter how bad he gets the Yidden to behave, the Eir of Ishtalshlus is going to be mashpia to the Yidden because they're mlei mitzvahs kerimim. But he thought perhaps if he reaches the place of the Baal HaRatzin, which is even higher than the Ratzin, and over there he's so far above and beyond anything that's happening in Ilam Hazeh, that good behavior, negative behavior is all the same thing. So he thought over here, if he if his luck works out just right and he gets the girdle to be on the right month, then the whole course of history and the whole Seder in the world will go his way, and he'll be able to destroy the Yidden. Okay, as is given Haman Arshas Cheshbon. He made a good Cheshbon.
He's right or wrong?
He read the manual or he didn't read the manual? He read the manual.
Yeah.
Okay. Vishlakashas, however, there it says that there's it goes even deeper than that. Vishlakashas, we're going to go very fast this part, and then at the end we'll try to make a summary. It says when I get Achashverosh.
Why did Haman resort to girdle as opposed
How
to,
did it make sense to him that
as
it's going to work?
as opposed to him giving a direct order, kill them?
No,
Krivish can girdle. Why girdle?
no.
Girdle
No.
means what? Maybe it won't come out that way. Maybe it will come out that way. Why should he put himself in a questionable position when he could have said Lechatchila, God Achashverosh, let's kill these people, finish.
Because then he knew it wouldn't work. Then he's going in a seder of Ishtalshlus. He knew that he needs things in the Elam Salim to work out his way. He had a look at the Yidden. He saw their Anhaga. He made a cheshbon. He said, there's another thing over here. There's the Yidden. They had some higher power, some higher force revealed themselves to them. There was a mice of Yetzias Mitzrayim. There was a mice of Har Sinai. There was a mice that they took over Eretz Yisrael. They overcame 31. He knew there was some higher power that was on their side.
He was understanding Yidden the way his wife brought it out. He said,
Yes.
This is a Zera Yehudi.
Yes,
You're wasting
they
your
were
time.
very in tune. They were very in tune with the spiritual forces that have a power over what happens in the world. And he understood that he had to get to Geidel. Okay, so we're going to go quickly, and then at the end we'll try to make a summary of the Nakuda. It says somewhere else, meaning Achashverosh. Why was Achashverosh called Achashverosh? The Achashverosh, who Achashverosh, it's a combination of two words of Achash and Rosh. What's the first word? Chash, Miloshin Sika of silence. So we see first in Diktuk that Chash is the meaning of silence. And the silence of Chash is a silence which is higher than Dibur. In other words, you have somebody who's dumbstruck, he can't speak, and that's Lamatim in Dibur. Then you have an idea of Sika which is higher than Dibur.
You can't put it into words.
You can't, exactly. Al derech, like it says in the Gemara, Mila b'selish tikusa betray, that a word is worth one sela. Silence, which is higher than what can be put into words, is worth two sela, double. Because where does dibur come from? From chachma. Ushsika he bekeser shalamayla me'achachma k'remazal siyag lachachma shsika. The siyag lachachma siyag m'loshen geder umaki for keser shalamayla me'achachma. So stika comes from keser, which is be'ein arayich higher than chachma. Vishlakash is a madis of Melish Achashverosh, who's Zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Achashverosh Shaloi. Achashverosh is referring to the Eibishter Al Shem Achis and Reis Shaloi, also a combination of two words. Ki Keser Hu Deklal Eir HaSeviv Shalamayla Mishtal Shalos. Why does it say HaKadosh Baruch Hu and describe the Madriga in the Likus as Achashverosh Shaloi? Because Keser is Eir HaSeviv, which is higher than Ishtal Shalos. The Eir HaSeviv Kelil Achashverosh B'Shaveh, which the Oir, which is Malam Ishtalshlus, includes and contains within it the beginning and the end equally, and that's why it's Achlis Bereishis Shaloi. Okay, so V'tzarech Lahavin, the Gemara is that Achashverosh Wal Hashem Shushchuru Pneihem Shal Yisrael. L'chore, there's an opposite meaning in Achashverosh, not Achashverosh, and not Achashverosh Shaloi, but it says that what happened in the times of Achashverosh, the eyes, the face of the Yidden was darkened in his days, mitzad the tremendous amount of suffering and pain and sorrows that they had. How does it connect with the other person, the word Achashverosh, that's got a very high madrega in a likus, the Ein Sof, which is higher than Ishtalshlus, a place where Achas and Reishis are equal. That is exactly the explanation. The Kivin Shemitzad HaSeviv Shalamayla Me'ishtalshlus Eir V'cheshach Shavim Lefanov Kanal Sifei, since Mitzad the Madrega of Seviv, which is higher than Ishtalshlus, dark and light is the same. Lachin Mibchinas Hashtika Chash Achashverosh Shalamayla Medibur Ishtalshal Deiri B'Tzimtzumim Hashtika Shalamata Medibur. Therefore, from the Madrega of Shtika of Achashverosh, which is the highest Madrega in Kedusha, the Inin of Keser, after Ribi Tzimtzumim, it came down into the lower worlds in Eifan of Shtika Shalamata Medibur Shalikutsu Behelim, that the Likus came completely Behelim. Helen Kipshut Shalamata Megil Vadla Shtika der Kerach Lifnege Zazen Lama, like a sheep who stands quietly while its precious wool is being shorn. The loyrak shel likus in meir begila l'shgam klipa mastersel likus, which karach lefnega is zen olama, is the idea that klipa covers over a likus, not only that likus is behelim on its own. Klipas negesh nikras chosh v'ach mischaberes in gimmel klipas tatmeis until we get to the end of the name of Achashverosh, that even the gimmel klipas tatmeis cover over a likus. Okay, so mitzah, this was the same idea that Haman and Rasha had, that go higher than Ishtal Shlus. If you go to higher than Ishtal Shlus, everything is equal. Achis and Reish is dark and light. And everything is the same. So if everything is the same, he saw what happened during the times of Achashverosh. What happened during the times of Achashverosh? The Yidden were in big trouble. So he figured, I see that when there's a Hanhaga that's L'mayla Mihishtal Shlus, the Yidden don't do too well. And therefore, let me also go with the approach of L'mayla Mihishtal Shlus. Okay? That's Bekitza what the Rebbe says in Vav. However, the Rebbe now asks an obvious question. The Rebbe doesn't even ask the question, he goes immediately to the answer. But the question is, if the whole period of Achashverosh was a time of Achashverosh Shaloi, a time of L'mayla Mihishtal Shlus, so why did Haman need the Geidel? There's already a Hanhaga in Elam Haza of Achashverosh, a Hanhaga that comes from L'mayla Mihishtal Shlus, and it's Nishtal Shlus through Ribut Tzimtzumim, to a place where Klippas can overcome a Likus. So why did he need Geidel? Why wasn't he satisfied with the Madriga of Achashverosh? Okay. V'shleimar, ha'tam al zeh sh'amanipul pur b'chtei lagile b'chinas ha'geidel shel l'mayla mihishtal shlus, af she'oz v'echshverosh gam kedem sh'ipul pur hoysa ha'naga mitzad l'mayla mihishtal shlus, hu lefi sh'b'chinas ha'geidel hu l'mayla yeser gam b'chinas ha'chashverosh misha Achashverosh shaloi. Because the level of Geidel is even higher than the level of Achashverosh, than the idea of Achashverosh shaloi. Okay, so we had so far two madrigas. We had the madriga of Hishtal Shlus, and over there, Achashverosh is not Shaloi. There's a difference between the beginning and the end. There's a difference between dark and light because it's al piseichel. It's and the ma'aseh tachtenim are negeya. They're tefes makim. And then you have a system that's l'mayla Hishtal Shlus from Ratzin, and actually higher than Ratzin from Baal Ratzin. That over there everything is equal. Okay. Now we're going to see a subtlety in this idea of l'mayla Hishtal Shlus. And Haman Rasha wasn't satisfied with the L'mayla of Ishtal Shlus of Achashverosh. He understood that he needs something more. So let's go more into the subtle idea. From this, that Achashverosh is given the name of Achashverosh. Why? Because there's a Achris and there's a Reishis. That Lagabe Achashverosh, there is higher and lower. Higher and lower exist. But it's just like he doesn't care. He doesn't care. To him, it's nishnegeya. He stands so beyond it, it's nishnegeya. But this is high and this is low. Befedish. It says that first he made a mishta of 180 days. No, which one? Yeah, a mishta of 180 days. Then afterwards he made a mishta of 7 days for the entire populace of Shushan. Even though Achashverosh is like a higher, still there was a difference in the Gili, the way it came down. Even within the Gili that came to the entire population of Shushan over there too, there were different Medegas, like we know from what it says in the Megillah. It says Bachatzar Ginas Pisan HaMelech, in the courtyard of in the garden and the orchard. So the lower members of the city of Shushan, the citizens of the city of Shushan, they went to the Chatz, it's the courtyard, which is outside. Already, this is already a garden where you have flowers, etc. So they were allowed to come to a more inner area of the palace for the feast. And then Haray Lebisim to the orchard, which this was the nicest part, is Lebisim. When it comes to the level of Ishtal Shlus, if Achashverosh, the idea of Achashverosh is only a gili for Ishtal Shlus, so then there would be no Mishta L'Chalaman in Tzayim B'Shushan, because they're regular people, they're plain people. What do they have to do with the king? Yeah, in France. And don't quote me on this because I've heard this from somebody, but I can't say I confirmed this. But I went over there to Versailles. They took us there when we were in camp, and it's Pashut. The whole city. It's not a city. The Versailles is in the palace. I forgot the name of the town. but it's a suburb of Paris, and the entire suburb was only for the nobility, for the aristocrats to live in. The people, what do you call the regular folk? Yeah, of Paris weren't even allowed in. And so
Silicon Valley.
So and then you had only Sarav Avodav who was allowed into in the city of Versailles, only in the village of Versailles, only Sarav Avodav, and then you had the palace itself, and the disconnect between the king and the regular people, or the queen and the regular people who lived in Paris, was so great, as Menzogt, that when they started rioting in Paris, and they were marching on Versailles, and they came with Tinus, and they asked if they could send, a message to the king and queen to explain what it is that's bothering them, and they explained. They said that we are so poor, there's so little food that we don't even have bread. So she answered, "Let them eat cake." What's up? You don't have bread? Eat cake. She was so disconnected from the situation of what it means to be poor and what regular people live like, that she thought this, like that. She had no idea. So it's mitzad atzma, a king or a queen, they're so murameyam, they're so far removed from the nation that they have nothing to do. L'chol ha'am nimtzayim b'shushan. Sarav avodav, yes. L'chol ha'am nimtzayim b'shushan. They have no clue what it means to be. Let them eat cake made perfect sense to her. She thought she was giving them an answer. She was saying, like, what's the problem if you don't have bread? If we're saying eat cake, what's the matter? So mitzat ishtalshalus, there would be no gilui to the nation, only to Sarav Avodav. Why did Achashverosh make a mishta l'chol ha'am nimtzayim? Because he was from higher than because his anaga was anaga higher than ishtalshalus. Because the gili was from the level of Achashverosh, who to him Achashverosh is and therefore he was so far removed that Sai Sarav Avodav, Sai Kol Ha'am Nimtzayim B'Shushan didn't come close to his level, and he gave them all the same, but not mamish the same. Nevertheless, the revelation that came to the nation was lower than the revelation that came to the Sar, to his ministers and his servants. The Gamba Gilil Hama Yekam Dagas, like David just mentioned before. It's because Legabe Achashverosh, to him they're all the same. But when it comes to this Madega of Achashverosh, when it becomes revealed in the world, when it comes to the Eilim Yenim, he's more revealed than he is when it comes to the Eilim Tachtenim. In other words, if we try to go back to the muscle, what are we saying over here? Saying over here that there's a person who's so far removed from monkeys, let's say. Yeah. So to him, monkeys and rats are the same thing. Why is this one better? Why is that one? There's no difference. He's not interested in monkeys and he's not interested in rats. It's all the same. However, if you ask him, is there a difference? I'm not telling you what to you are they all the same. Asking, is there a difference between a monkey and a rat? So he'll say, yeah, of course there's a difference. Monkeys have opposing thumbs. Yeah, they have a thumb on this side. That's why they could climb on trees and hold on to things. They have a thumb that goes like this. Rats don't. Monkeys are far greater, are far better than rats. You can ask me, I don't care about either of them. They're not human. I'm a human being. What do I have to do with monkeys and rats? But he can ask me, is there a difference between monkeys? He's like, yeah, but there's a difference between them. And therefore, if he's going to be mashpia to monkeys or rats for whatever reason, if his gili is going to come lower, so there's going to be a difference between the hashpah to the monkeys versus the hashpah to the rats. It's not going to be the same. The rat he's going to kill, the monkey he'll put in a cage. It's not a chilik.
People who live up in the mountains say that who's the smartest animal there is the raccoon, because he has a thumb. So he knows how to go open up garbage cans.
It's all about the opposing thumb.
But the other rodents, they can't get into it. They can't get in.
Yeah.
So you close it tight, but the raccoon knows tight.
They have the technique. So what happened over here is, what we're saying over here is like this. Haman and Rasha understood that Taka now is a system of Achashverosh. It's a system that's higher than Ishtalshlus, and Lagabe higher than Ishtalshlus, my Satachtanim is not Tifis Mokim, and Shavim Lagabe, and Kachshech, it doesn't matter. But still, he knew that Lagabe the Madriga of Achashverosh, there's still a difference between Yidden and Goyim. They're still not the same. Al derech, like to a person that he says, I'm human, there's no erech between me and any animal, but he'll tell you that there's a difference. If you ask me, yeah, there's a difference between rats and monkeys, but to me, it's all the same. So Haman understood that Lagabi the Madrigal, the man of Shtastas of Achashverosh, there's taka, it doesn't care about this one or that one. If they're Reishis or if they're Acharis, it's all the same to him. Aber Achas Reishis is this. And therefore, when the Hashpah comes down into the world, to the Reishis, you get a bigger Hashpah, and to the Acharis, you get a smaller Hashpah. To the Sod of Avadav, you get a bigger Mishta, to the you get a smaller Mishta. And therefore, he knew that when the Hashpah is going to come down to this world, even if the Hashpah is coming from the Madrega of Acharis, Reishis, Shaloi, still the Yidden are going to come out on top. They're not, or we'll soon see, not necessarily on top, but he's not going to be able to destroy them. So let's see. When it comes to the Madrega of Geidel, there's no concept of Reishis and Achris. It's so much greater and so much higher that they're mamish the same without any difference. Yeah, I believe I may have said this once, that Rabbi Paracha said that the distance between me and his teacher, Reb Zalman Zezmer, is like the distance between Reb Zalman Zezmer and the cat. He said, you shouldn't think, what I mean to say is that just like between me and a cat, there's no connection, so too between Reb Zalman Zezmer and me, there's no connection. He said, no, nicht das ist the pshat. Pshat is that Reb Zalman Zezmer, me and the cat are the same thing. Me and the cat are the same. This is it's not only higher than Ishtal. There is no. He was saying on himself. I would never say such a thing, but he was saying on himself that he's like a cat. That there's mamish no difference. Mitzad the Reimumus of Reb Zalman Zezmer, there's no difference between him and a cat. It's a more dick of art, but as ever get.
I heard the story once where he says, me and the cat, he says, we both look at the moon. The cat sees the moon, I see the moon. But does the cat understand the moon the way I understand the moon? He's looking at the same thing. He sees it.
So that's a muscle for something else. Yeah. But I'll go upon him. So Haman Rasha knew that he has to reach a place where mitzad the reimus of this place, they're all equally the same. There's no difference between them whatsoever. And for that he had to reach to the place of Geidel, higher than the place of Achashverosh. So he had to get higher than Achashverosh, as is understood from the fact that a Geidel is cast lots are cast after when get to two things which are equal. Just like when you get to levels of higher and lower, it's the same idea when you get to Kedusha and Sitrachel in general. Mitzad the Madrega of Achashverosh of L'mayla Meishtalshlus, even though it's not negated the Ma'aseh Tachteinu, but there's still a difference between Kedusha and Sitrachel. Mitzad Hareimus Shalei Ein Zin Teifes Makam Kokach. V'lechein Efshel Yischinik Gam LeSitrachel, and therefore Mitzad the Hareimus of the Ein Tzaf Shel L'mayla Meishtalshlus, it's shaykh for Sitrachel to also gain nourishment, and it could be when it goes down through Ribui Tzimtzumim, you end up getting the Chash of Klippas Noiga, and the same Achashverosh, the same Achashverosh ends up becoming the of Chash of Klippas Noiga and Reish of Gimel Klippas Atmeis. V'achati Skabas Sitrachel ala Kedusha, to the degree that Sitrachel can gain more of a nourishment, more of a Yenika, and even overpower the Kedusha. And that's why, that's what happened during the times of Achashverosh, Hushchru Pneim Shel Yisrael, because Achashverosh overpowered them. And it could be the this idea is like the idea of a spider, I believe it is, finding itself in the heichal, in the chamber of the king, and the king doesn't bother to kill it and to chase it away.
He's not even aware of it.
We'll let you show me that's the word. I don't know. He doesn't go into an arichas over here. But what he says over here is that the remus of the king, he doesn't pay attention to it. I'm not sure. It could be you're right, but he doesn't pay attention. He doesn't care that it exists over there. But not to So mitzad that it doesn't care, they're not teifus makim. So the hashpah could go to the kedusha, and the hashpah could go to the klippah. That the klippah should get more hashpah is also a possibility, and that the greater hashpah going to the klippah will cause the klippah to have a memshala, a power over the kedusha. It's also because it's not negate, and if this one is higher, this one is lower, it doesn't matter. But since the Eid of Achris and does agree that the Yidden are higher than the Goyim, that Kedusha is higher than the Klippah, so mitzad the Madrega of Achris and you can never have a situation where the Klippah completely destroys the Kedusha. Adkan. That the Klippah could get more Yanikim, it's not that I don't care what happens down here beside it, but that the Klippah should get so much power that it could completely destroy the Yidden, since the existence of Achris and is there. There is a beginning, there is an end, there is a higher, there's a lower. It's just that I don't care about it. I don't care that this is higher, I don't care that this is lower, but this is higher, this is lower. The only way I could explain it is in the mashal is like somebody saying that because I'm human, therefore I'm going to argue that a rat is greater than a monkey. And you ask me, how can you explain that? So you say, what do you mean? Because I'm human. I'm so much greater than them, so therefore what? So therefore the rat is greater than the monkey. It doesn't add up. If you agree that this one is called a monkey and this one is called a rat, then this one is higher and this one is lower. It doesn't matter that you are greater than all of them in an eifin of ein areich. This one is still higher and this one is still lower. So al derech zeh mitzad the madrega of achris v'reishis shaloi. Mitzad the madrega of achris v'reishis shaloi. It's not shaykh to say that Haman should be menatzeach and be lahashmit to destroy, to annihilate chas v'shalom the Yidden. And that was his problem with the madrega of Achashverosh. That's why he knew that just going with the madrega of Achashverosh, he won't be able to get to where he's trying to get. Achashverosh wanted to chas v'shalom destroy all of the Yidden. He knew he had to reach up for a place that's higher than Geirol, that's higher than Achashverosh, where the Yidden, where that concept of a distinction between Klippah and Kedusha exists. He knew he had to reach higher. There is entirely no difference, no distinction between Kedusha and Sitra Achra. And especially as explained earlier, since Geirol is not only higher than Ishtalshlus, but it's also higher than Ratzin, and it has to do with the Baal Ratzin. In other words, what he's saying over here is like this. The Chorah, what he's saying in the Sagaim is like this. What's the difference between Kedusha and Sitra Achra? Yeah, as he explains in Tanya, that why is Sitra Achra called Sitra Achra? Sitra Achra means the other side. Other to what? It's not the side of the Ratzin Ha'elim. What's the side, or it's not the side of Kedusha. And how is that defined? Kedusha is defined where the Ratzin Ha'elim is. And Sitra Achra is anywhere where the Ratzin is not. So it's a Kedusha and Sitra Achra is a question of, is this what the Ratzin wants, or is this the opposite of what the Ratzin wants? You can't have the existence, a distinction between Kedusha and Sitra Achra if you're in a place that's higher than Ratzin. You understand? How does the Alter Rebbe explain Kedusha and Sitra Achra? Kedusha, the Alter Rebbe explains that's where Ratzin Ha'elin is. Sitra Achra is the opposite of Ratzin Ha'elin. So it's all about what the Ratzin Ha'elin is. Why is there a difference between Kedusha and Sitra Achra? Because of Ratzin. Since in this one there's the Ratzin, and in this one there's not the Ratzin. What if you go to a place that's higher than Ratzin? With what is Kedusha different than Sitra Achra? We reached higher, there's no Ratzin. The whole difference is only comes from Ratzin. So from what does the distinction come from? You missed the word. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. How does the Alter Rebbe explain Kedusha and Sitra Achra? He says Kedusha is everything where the Ratzin Elin is. Sitra Achra is the other side. In other words, it's where the Ratzin Elin is not, or it's what's against the Ratzin Elin. So what's the whole distinction between Kedusha and Sitra Achra?
If it's towards Ratzin Deivsha or not.
What happens if you reach a place that's higher than Ratzin? Is there any distinction between the Kedusha and Sitra Achra? The whole distinction was created only because of the Ratzin. If you come to a place that's higher than Ratzin, there's no distinction. So that's what Haman figured he has to get to, where there's mamish no difference. He has to get higher than Ratzin. You don't say no more achris. There's no achris, there's no reishis, there's no Ratzin. If there's no Ratzin, then there's no difference. And he thought like this, chas v'shalom, he'll be able to lachein chashav, shali deze yuchal chas v'shalom lahafik es mame. Okay, but it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Why? Now comes the hard part of the matter. Just like you have this concept of a girl which is higher than seichel, not only that, it's also higher than ratzon. There's this concept idea of there's a place in a person's soul and a place in the ilmus elyenim which is called bchira, and this place of bchira is higher than seichel and even higher than ratzon. When a person chooses something, but even when he wants something because of his ratzon, you cannot yet call this bchira, because he has no choice. Either he has no choice, mitzad seichel dictates that this is what he should choose, or mitzad ratzon, that his ratzon forces him that he should choose this. That ratzon forces him is already a part. We'll get back to it maybe in a few lines. So when do you say that the person chose of his own free will? Bchira means that there was nothing that compelled him to take this one or that one, not even his own ratzon. Nothing. It was a completely self-directed move. He chose from within himself that I want this and not the other one. So this is also higher than ratzon. So it comes out that we have two madrigas that are higher than ratzon. We have geidel that's higher than ratzon, and we have bchira that's higher than ratzon. The question is, which one is higher? Haman Rasha thought that he's going to reach geidel and then everything is going to be okay. But since he wasn't a yid, and even though he read the manual and read it well, but you can't understand something that you have no clue exists, and he wasn't a yid, this idea of bchira he had no concept of, and that was his mistake. Well, we're getting ahead of myself. Let's go a little further first. The difference between geidel and bchira is when a person casts lots and he decides after evaluating it in his seichel and determining that in seichel there's no difference. So now he, from a higher place within him, he decides that however the geidel comes out, that's what he is going to want. Nevertheless, so mitzad echad it comes from him. Mitzad his hachlata, mitzad his decision. But what happens b'poil? What does he want b'poil? Haratzon shaloi hulei mitzad adam elam mipnei shekein nafal hagedol. B'poil mamish, after casting the lots, what does he want? He wants it because that's where the lot fell. The hachlata came from him that he's going to follow the gedol. But what was his ratzon? Whatever the gedol said, the gedol didn't come from him. B'chira is that the person himself is the one who's beicher. He chooses, and from this it's understood that the bchira is higher than gedol. Just on these 4 or 5 words, you have the key almost to the whole understanding of a large part of the understanding what the Rebbe is saying. The way the Rebbe is explaining it is what's pshat lower and what's pshat higher. Lower is whatever is more chitzenius to me in madrigas of nefesh ha'adam, and in the ilmus elyenim, in the ilmus bechlal, lower is what's more chitzen, what's more something that came from the outside. Higher is something that's more the emes of me in the madrigas of nefesh, or in the ilum is something that's more the emes of the pnimius of the ilmus of the pnimius of the Eibishter Kivyachol. So he says like this: seichel is something that's completely on the outside, because we evaluated the qualities of what? What did we evaluate before we were able to make a decision? We evaluated the other things. The decision wasn't based on me. The decision was based on an honest determination of what the other thing is. So that's completely chitz and it's completely external to me. I decided that this car is better than the other car. Why? Because of what the car is. Because this car is better than the other car. That me bichlal? It's completely chitzenius to me. And therefore, in the madrigas of nefesh ha'adam, it's the lowest level of nefesh ha'adam, the part of the nefesh that has to do with things that are outside of him. Higher than that is ratzon. Ratzon is where the person has a netiya to something. It's a hatayas hanefesh. It's not pshat that there's a maila in this thing or that thing, but it's pshat that it's the nature of the nefesh to have a hataya, to have a attraction, a draw to this other thing. So over here, mitzad, what is it? It's mitzad the nature of the nefesh. That his nature is that he's nated to this type of a thing. Some nefashas are nated to chesed, some nefashas are nated to gvura. I'm not talking about in the midas, I'm talking about pashat in the nature of the neshama. So the nefesh is nated to this thing or to the other thing. So it's not mitzad the other thing, it's mitzad that this is what the nefesh is nated to. But it still has to do with chitzenius. V'haraya, to what is the nefesh nated? Not because of the other thing. It's because that's the nature of the nefesh, fine. But to what is the nefesh nated to? It's nated to something that's outside of it. So again, if it's outside of it, so it's a lower place. Not as low as Seichel, where the entire story is about an evaluation of which car is better. It's more has to do with which car my nefesh is more nated to. If there could even be hatayas ratzon to a karich beis beyond Seichel. But it's about what my nefesh is nated to. But still, what's my nefesh nated to? To something that's outside of me. So it's a hataya of then it's bechitzenius to the person. Then you have Geidel. Geidel is what? No, my ratzon is not nated not to this and not to that, because the other thing. But this shows that the other thing is completely outside. It has nothing to do with me. I'm in a place where I'm higher than have anything to do with chitzonius. I'm completely b'pnimis. I'm completely internally living within myself. I'm not living on the outside. I'm living within my own soul. And from that place, he makes a hachlata. From within himself, he makes a hachlata that he's going to choose one of them based on the Geidel. Not based on them, he's going to choose one of them based on the Geidel. But is the Geidel himself? No. The Geidel is not him. The Geidel is an external thing. And since his ratzon ends up being based on what an external thing said, so it's right that it's not the pnimius of the person. It's more bechitzenius. Not as chitzin as seichel, not as chitzin as ratzon. Because it's only because of my hachlata. But the ratzon ends up following an external force. I end up following an external, so therefore it's something that's external to me, it's not my pnimius. What's the highest level of the pnimius of the person? And so too l'maylo. The highest level is when it has nothing to do with others. It's my b'chira. I made a b'chira. Not because a Geidel forced me, and certainly not because the nature of my nefesh forced me to go this way, or even man dechar shmei of seichel. It's b'chira chavshis, it's an internal decision. I made the decision. The guy didn't sell me a boat. I don't need anything from him. Nobody, there's nothing there. I want it. I chose. And that's where the person is living mitzad himself. He's a healthy person. Could become, if it's nishtal shalamatik, chas v'shalom become also not good from such a thing. But al kol panim, that's a different discussion. But he's a healthy person. He's living internally from within himself. He's motivated from the forces inside of him, not motivated from the external things that are going on around and outside of him. And that's a nefesh ha'adam. And that's why it's higher. And here the Rebbe explains it. Like I said, it's subtle, it's deep, it's hard, but we're going to explain it as good as we could. The Geidel ha'adarge b'nefesh hi mugderes u'muchrachas b'zeh sheshnei dvarim him shavim l'gaba. B'negea to Geidel, my nefesh is not neita, not to this and not to this. I have no ratzon. However, I have no choice. When I'm presented with two equal things, I have no choice but to say that they're both equal and I don't know what to do. Hold on one second. So what does this show us? This shows us that the outside still exists. If the fact that two external things to me are both the same to me, and therefore even my ratzon can't choose, if that has an effect on me that my ratzon can't choose, so this shows that on which part of myself am I living, and which madeg of the nefesh am I living, on something that's more external, that has to do to things that are outside of me. Even though it's so high, it's so pnimius to me, and therefore they're not negeya to me. And not only are they not negeya, I don't even see a difference between them. But still, because I can't see a difference between them, now I can't choose this one or the other, and I have to resort to Geidel. So the fact that these things force me to say that they have no erech to me, that they're both equal to me, is also, it's a negative connection. It's a connection of being not. It's a yachas, a shlili l'chora, but it's a connection. I could choose one of them. They have no effect on me. They could be the same, they could be different. I could choose one of them. He could choose something. The Mashiach is able to choose whatever it is that he wants. Okay? That was the first part of the hard part. And now the second part, I'm not trying to understand it properly. Not, truth be told, not trying to understand earlier also properly. But this part, I can't even convince myself to understand it properly. But I'll explain it the way I understand it, and hopefully it's right. This is the part that I'm not sure, but I'll share it with you. David says that in Bechira there's two parts. Why does David say that in Bechira there's two parts? Because what David is saying is that what's Bechira? Bechira is like he just finished saying over here, Yecholte. Right, the last 4 lines be Yecholte livchad b'masha. It's a Yechelis, it's a Madregi in the Nefesh Adam that he has a place where nothing has any erech to him. He's the only one who determines what goes on. So this is a Yechelis, but when he makes the decision, what happens over here? He chooses something that's outside of him. That's what the Rebbe is saying over here in the V'yishlem, the Bechira Shnei Yonim, that the Bechira lowers itself to the next Madrega where you do have two things. And why? Why is the Rebbe saying? Because that's the act of Bechira. The act of Bechira is not just a Yechelis. You also make a choice b'peil mamish. So you have to say that Bechira contains within it two concepts. First is the Yechelis. Inside the Yechelis, everything is equal. It's only about me. Then you come b'peil mamish to actually choosing. So now there's a second in Bechira that you b'peil mamish choose this one or the other one. There's the Yechelis, the ability to do it, and then there's the actually doing it. That's the second part in Bechira. Maybe that's why the Rebbe is saying it. So, but let's see what the Rebbe says. What are the two levels in Bechira? There's a Madrega of Bechira, which this is a Madrega that's higher than Seichel from Gabash Neidvarim Him B'Shava, which this is Darga Sagayro. And then there's the second, part, possession. Yeah. Yeah. That's what they were saying. Yes. That the idea that the person chooses the part that there are two Dvarim Shavim. Again, Bechira, like we said before, is only in Dvarim Shavim.
Right.
Otherwise, you have Seichel to choose or even Ratzon to choose. So Geidol is the place where everything is equal. So Bechira is in something where everything is equal. So that's the Madrega of Geidol. So the place where Bechira makes a choice is in the same level of Geidol. So you have the level of Geidol where you have things that are outside of me. You have those two equal things. And the Bechira comes down into that place of Geidol. Into that place of Geidol and chooses this one or the other one. But then you have the higher part of Bechira, that even though both of the things Lagabe, his high Madrega, are both exactly equal, he can choose one of them. He's not forced to say, I don't know what to do. He says, I want this one. That's the level of Bechira. And that's the higher level of Bechira. That says that in Bechira you have both in Yonim. But that's the emes level of Bechira. And what happens to Bechira? This is the key part to the Rebbe's answer to this whole to the whole question of the whole Maimer. From the etzem to the Madrega of Geidol, Hadagish L'Gabo Shnei Dvarim Him B'Shava, Gam HaGeidol, Hagam Shemitzad Atzmai Efshel Yis B'Shnei Efanim Hu Kfiyah Bechira. Even in this place of Geidol, where over there everything is equal. This place where Haman Rasha thought if he plays his cards right, casts his lots the right way, he can overcome the Yidden because Yidden and Goyim, Ketush and Tzitachre, there's no distinction between them. But Mitzad Bechira, when the Eibishter makes a Bechira, so now even in that place, which side is on top, which side is victorious, which side has a yomtiv, it's the side where the Eibishter's Bechira was. And the Eibishter's Bechira, of course, was by the Yidden. So the idea of Bechira is a hamshacha from the Yechelis Kivyachol by the Eibishter, in other words, from the Atzmos Mamish, to the highest level in the Olam Yisrael, a place where you can't yet say Kedusha Sitrachli, you can't make a distinction yet between anything. There's a hamshacha. So if that place was left on its own, so Haman Rasha could reach that place through Geidol, and he could cause that Chas Shalom Zayin Lahashmi Lahagel Abed Hayolesiya. But when the Bechira is Meir in the Geidol, it's Meir in this place where Kulam Shavim. So now Haman Rasha can't do it. Stays. We'll say the Rebbe is going to say it again soon. Like it says in the pasuk, that the Eibishter supports the Geidol, that the Geidol should be according to what Atzmos chooses. The Eibishter should choose his inheritance. The gain of Yaakov, the Beget Yaakov, it says his portion, but he touches it as a daven lashon of Geidol. V'inin yivcharis gain Yaakov hu shagam b'dargas haGeidol. What's the idea of Yivchalanus Nachlasenu that also when it comes to the Madrega of Geil Shalom Mailam Mishtalsus, not Stam Shalom Mailam Mishtalsus, the highest place in the Mailam Mishtalsus, Hakol Shavim Sham, still Habchira he be Yisrael Dafke. The Bchira is Dafke in the Yidden. So Amon Rasha knew that he has to get to a place that's on Haga that's higher than Hishtalshlus. Higher than Hishtalshlus, he already had no problem with. He knew because it was the times of Achashverosh, Achris, V'reish Shaloi. He knew he was good, but he realized he has to get to a place higher than Hishtalshlus, even higher than that, which this is to the place of Geidel. Because when you get to Achashverosh, to him, he doesn't care about the Achris V'reishis, but there is a Achris and there is a Reishis. He had to reach even higher, L'mayla min haratzin, where there's no difference between Kedusha and Sitra Achra. There's no chiluk between them. And that's the place of Geidel. And he figured that over there he can succeed. But it didn't work. Because what kind of a Geidel was it? It was a Geidel al pi the Bechira of the Eibishter. What's the pshat? A Geidel al pi Bechira. That Geidel is this madrega that Haman Rasha tried to reach. And he figured that it's at the Reimus, Ram al Kol Goyim Hashem, it's at the Reimus of the Eibishter, it's at the Reimus of the Ilmus Ulyanim. They won't care what's going on in the Ilmus Tachteinim because everything is equal and therefore he can have his day. But what he didn't realize is that the Eibishter is beyond that. He had no shaykhs to such madrigas. That's why he didn't get it. It wasn't in the copy of the mail that he got. He didn't get it. That there should be a place, an idea of Bechira, and that this Bechira should be nimshach into the place of Geidel and ruin his plans. He didn't know that such a thing could happen. So Geidel, so the Geidel of Purim, what's Hippel Pur? What was the madrega of Geidel of Purim? That the Geidel was according to the Bechira. In other words, that Yana Hamshacha from Bechira into the Bechira of Geidel. That the outcome of the Geidel was according to the Bechira of the Atzmos. You had the Gili of the Bechira in the Geidel. They're equal, they're both brothers, they're both at the same generation, in other words, at the same level. That's Esav Sanesi, they made a Bechira to love Yaakov and to hate Esav. And how did this happen? Over here, there says a tremendous Chiddush on Hara 68. He explains just how great the Chiddush is of a Mavanish site. In some ways, you could say that Hara 68 is the whole inyan of the whole Geidel, of the whole Maimer. Okay, let's do Hara 68. What does the Rebbe say? 69, excuse me. Yeah, we'll get to it in the Pnim. What does the Rebbe say? That why was the Eibishter Beicher in the Yidden? Because of the Mesiris Nefesh that the Yidden had throughout the entire year. Mahakesha. So he says, Dinina Mesiris Nefesh u'me'etzam haneshama. Because Mesiris Nefesh comes from the etzam haneshama. And here's the Chiddush of the Rebbe. What does it mean that it comes from the etzam of the neshama? It's at the Bechira, the etzam haneshama ba'asmus. It comes from the Bechira of the etzam haneshama in the atmos of the Eibishter. Let's see Hara 69, so it becomes clear to us what the Chiddush of the Rebbe over here is. Betanya, so if Perik Yud Ches, it says, where does Mesiris Nefesh come from? Because the Yid has no choice. The Kimish Mesiris Nefesh Gili Echidah She'en Keneged L'Lumaz Elechem Mesiris Nefesh Lo Yibeifen She'en Yochel Liyas Nifshot Chas V'Sholom. That he can't. What did they just say in the Pnim? That the Mesiris Nefesh came inside the Bechira the Etzem and Hashama B'Atzmus. It came inside the Bechira of the Yid in Atzmus. How does that work without ever saying that it's impossible? And here, this is how often do you see the Rebbe Kilu saying that Alter Rebbe doesn't tell you like this, but we're going to say there must be something deeper. It's very, very infrequent. Since the idea of absolute, complete free choice is the pillar of Torah and mitzvahs, like the Rambam says, not only is it a pillar, it's also the main or of the main milas of the Aveda. Why do you need Aveda? Without Bechira, Aveda is valueless. This that the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, that inside the it's impossible to not have Mesiris Nefesh. It's not pshat that the Nefesh is muchrach in it. Just like when you get to the Eibishter, we say the Eibishter says, I can't switch them with a different nation. What's pshat? I can't. Of course, the Eibishter could do whatever he wants, but rather, what's the explanation? This Eini Yachol by the Eibishter is because he chose the Yidden, so it's his choice that makes the situation of Eini Yachol. The Rebbe says that the neshama is Eina Yechela. Lichber b'avay echad, it's mitzad the bechira of the neshama. The yid had a part in this. It's mitzad his bechira, and that's the true depth of Mesiras Nefesh. That the neshama makes a bechira to be connected to the Eibishter, and then already it's impossible for it to be nifled. So we have over here the Aveda of the Yidden throughout the year of the Gzeira of Haman was that they were standing in the Madrega of Bechira in the Eibishter, a constant Bechira in the Eibishter. That inside their Bechira, they couldn't do anything else, they couldn't forsake the Eibishter. And this was Ali Me'eru the Bechira Lamaila. That drew down and revealed in this world the Bechira of the Atzmus in the Yidden. So therefore also the Geidel that took place, the outcome of the Geidel was is that the Yidden should have light and joy and all the assurance and happiness and glory. That's Haman responded. In other words, that the choice was in the Yidden and to the Goyim to hate them. But Deb is not finished yet with his answer. It says Hapur. This is the idea of Pur. This is the idea of Geidel. But over here we're talking about Haman's Pur. Because of Hapur be'edishakel ala Pur shehipil Haman. Kadehanes to put him miskal shegam Hapur shehipil Haman hoy melachatchil b'shvil hagil b'bchiras atzmos b'Yisrael. The Rebbe doesn't leave anything out of a likus, anything out of the positive story of the development of Yiddishkeit and of Gilui likus in this world. Even Haman's Pur, which he wasn't thinking about this. He wasn't thinking about this. The Rebbe says, you know what its pneumistic meaning was? It was there only in order to reveal Haman's Pur. The word isn't, in other words, the Kiddush of the Rebbe here isn't that there was Purim, that there was a Geidel by the Eibishter Lamaila to show the Bechiras Hatzmus of in the Yidden. He's saying that even Haman Rosh's Pur, which was emphatically a Pur to destroy the Yidden, that's whole purpose was to bring out the Bechira in the Yidden. Haman himself is Pur. That doesn't leave anything to be meaningless. And that's why the Geidel came out in the Chedesh which Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the savior of the Yidden, who saves them from their tzaras, al derech tzaras from Haman. He says that it looked like it was to his benefit, in his favor, and he succeeded even in creating the Gzeira. Nevertheless, the pnimis of the Pur, even in the first place, even Haman's Pur was according to the choice of the Atzmas, and that's why in Chedesh Adar Neilin Mishin Shem Yisrael the Eivis Yaakov that's Esav Senesi. And they've said this man, like we mentioned last year, to get rid of Stalin. So let's see now the next kata. I don't know if this is what Deba had in mind, but the Haman Rasha created an eitz in order to hang Mordechai. But what is the Medrash? I believe it is. The Gemara said Loila Atzmei Datam Shas Eitz Kavech Mishim Amu, who was the same idea what Deb explained in the Maimer until now. Kiratz Legia L'Shara Nun Shalamayla Mishtal Shamu Kachashecha Kareda. Va'anes to Punim Hoya Shagam Etzad Adaga De Lamayla Mishtal. Even though you could reach this place where it's not Negeh Ma'isa Tachtenim Legamre, and therefore there's no distinction between the Yidden, and therefore you would think, and he thought that he could succeed. Geidel Shara Nun Talos Haman Aleitz Mitzad the Bechira of the Eibishter. They ended up hanging Haman Aleitz, and Stalin ended up dying. And the entire Gzeira in the first place was Heichin Loi Loila Atzmei. And this is the part that's negat was even after Purim. Should be Purim Bechol Shana V'Shana, during the days of Purim and every single year. Nimshach B'Dagas Hapur Shelamayla Mishtalsus, we're mafshach to the Medega of Purim, to the Medega of Geidel, that it should be Yivchar Lanus Nachlasenus Goyin Yaakov, that they should have the Bechira and choosing the Yidden, and to hate the Goyim, U'machi Emcha Zecher Zecher Amalek, V'Geula Hashlema, V'Karev Mamish. Amen.
Oh yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, it's happening now.